Hi guys. So today I'm going to get back to my journey and my treatment. And so my last video when I was talking about my journey and headed to Mexico, and I told you guys that we got into a car accident and God used that to help pay for my treatment and stuff. And so now I'll get back to we're headed out. And so God waited on me to, because you have to understand there was my treatment, there's motels, there's, you know, our food and board. And we had been paying so much out in medical expenses and things that I needed, you know, prior to going to Mexico, because we don't have insurance, and there's no way that insurance would have ever have paid for the route that I was taking. So back to what I was saying. So we're headed out to Mexico. We're on our trip, and so God had waited on me very, very heavy. And every time I had prayed, you know, I was very grateful, Lord, for being in the car accident that we were in, and that money was going to go towards my treatments. And God kept weighing this one person on me constantly and says, I want you to go to that person and I want you to ask them for help. And I was so fighting God. I was like, God, please do not make me ask this person. I said, I don't know if it was pride or whatever, but I just had every time I thought about it, it made me sick. And I was like, God, please do not make me ask this person. And God, every time, in one way or another, kept confirming that he wanted me to talk to this person. So I was like, okay. So my mother-in-law headed out. We made it to Arizona. And so I got a hold of this person. Now, mind you, this person had been in my life for almost 7 years. And it was someone that I thought truly cared about me and truly wanted to see me get better and wanted to see me, you know, succeed with this treatment that God had put before me, this treatment plan. And so I got a hold of this person, and I was like, you know, I was like, I really need help. I said, I've got to pay for my room, which this is a month, and nothing is cheap in California. I need help with food. And you know, just to stop right there, this is very hard for me to tell you guys that I would struggle so much, but I know it's for God's greater purpose to see. It was such a humbling experience. And so back to what I was saying, I told you guys my brain goes 90 miles an hour. So I got a hold of this person, and I told him, I said, look, I said, God has worked in miraculous ways. And I said, but I said, I need to borrow a certain amount of money. And this person made me feel horrible, one, that I had asked, and two, they kept telling me, how is this going to benefit me? How is me giving you money going to benefit me? And I was all, this is my life. Like, this is my life. I do not want you to give me this money. I didn't even want to come to you and ask you for this money. I am telling you, God waited on my heart to come to you. So I thought by God waited on my heart that you would be more receptive to me coming to you. And the battle that I went on, they finally gave me the money, but they wanted to make sure they were able to write it off. They wanted to make sure that it was benefiting them in every way possible. And I told them, I'm like, look, there's this fund that was set up for me and stuff, because we had to now rent a car to get us there because we didn't have a vehicle to get us there that would get good fuel mileage and stuff like that. Remember, I told you we got rid of a lot of stuff when I found out that I had gotten sick. And so I was down to the bare minimum. So now we get in this car accident, the car is gone, we had to get a rent-a-car. That was a huge expense. And so and the crazy thing about it is her insurance didn't cover the rental car, so we had to pay for this out of pocket. So there was all this stuff, but I knew that God would just keep putting these stones in front of us, and he would continue to help me pay for this treatment and continue. And so I knew, as hard as it was for me to go to this person and ask for help, I knew it was God's will. And so anyways, this person finally gives me money and made me feel horrible. And here I have cancer, and I'm being told I was gonna die, and this person's telling me, well, I should just get insurance and go through chemo and radiation. And the whole negative that was coming from this person and telling me pretty much I was stupid for going the route that I was going. And, you know, and I just thought, why? Like, God, why would you have put me in this predicament to go to this person and ask? And here I truly thought this person cared about me. And I remember standing there when this person gave me this money, and I remember thinking to myself, which now I know it was God, is that I never want anybody to ever feel the way that person made me feel that day. The way that they almost made me feel bad for being sick. You know, that I couldn't have helped that any more than I could help the wind blowing. It was just, it happened. And so I was just like, I couldn't believe. And so I told them how appreciative I was that they helped me and that they did this to me. And if there was anything I could do to help them, you know. And still, me leaving to head to Mexico, they still made me feel horrible. And I thought, God, and God waited on me and told me, he was like, Angela, I needed you to go through that because I needed you to experience what other people may experience. And I needed you to feel that pain so that you, in your journey, would never make somebody feel that horrible. Like, that person made me feel completely horrible. And so, you know, we're headed on our journey, and, you know, as hard as it was, I thanked God that I would have been treated that way, because I never want anybody to ever feel that way. And so on our journey to Mexico, so we drive to Mexico. I start researching different motels and stuff like that. And I was like, I wanted one closer to, because I had researched before different motels, but I wanted to make sure that I was the closest to the border so that I could get back and forth. And so it was amazing how God worked, because as I was calling and researching, there was a motel stateside, because the first time I stayed stateside. So there was a motel that actually provided busing, like they provided a shuttle back and forth from the motel into Mexico. And so now, mind you, still on this journey, I still had people telling me I'm making a wrong choice. People are telling me this was a wrong decision. People are telling me I should have just listened to the doctors. And a lot of these people were Christians, and I thought, how is it so hard for them to believe that God spoke to me like he did and told me that this was the route? And so I just had to keep positive and keep positive with them. And so we found this motel, and I'm telling you, it's crazy, because I never thought in a million years that I was going to be able to do this, my family and I, financially. But I knew just how God just kept laying all these stones in front of me. And, you know, remember I told you in my previous video that God told me that don't worry about tomorrow, worry about today. Just let me take care of it. Let me put the stones in front of you. Let me make this path for you. Just trust me that you get through this. And so, you know, we found the different motels. I found the motel. I got, you know, registered with them. And so, and it's crazy, because when we were driving into California, it was night time, and my mother-in-law is like, Angela, she's like, look. And I look over on this mountain, and there was this cross completely lit up. Like, I just on top of this mountain completely lit up. And I remember crying and telling her, I know without a doubt that's a sign from God telling me everything's gonna be okay, that I'm not to worry. So I took pictures of this cross in amazement that God put this there for me to see, to show me I was on the right path, not to worry, not to stress. So we get to California late that night. We get checked in. They have us set up to ride the shuttle into Mexico. And so anyways, we get in there, get settled, stay the night. Next day, we get on the shuttle, we go over into Mexico, and these people that drive these shuttles are absolutely wonderful. And I am going to say this as a joke, a little bit of a joke. My friend Elizabeth Rodriguez would get humor out of this. She's from Mexico. If your kids ever want to learn how to drive and get their driver's license, they need to take a trip down into Tijuana, Mexico. And if they can pass driving down there without getting hit, without getting into an accident, without getting a ticket, I'm telling you, they're good to go as far as getting their driver's license. I have never seen such crazy driving in all of my life. I was like, holy cow, man. And so anyways, back to my story. So we get to the clinic. And so, sorry, my nose. So I want to back up just a little bit. In my last video, I'm so sorry, you guys. In my last video, I talked about my father-in-law who we had given the blood root to, and he had died, and I couldn't figure out why, because I knew that God had put that blood root in my path. You have to understand something. My father-in-law was so far gone before we knew anything, and so by the time we gave him the blood root, he was already going into, I guess, that coma state. And so I didn't want you guys to think that that blood root didn't work, because it does work. It's just we caught him at the wrong time, and no matter what we did, God wasn't going to allow us to save him. God needed to take him. And so I had to reiterate on that, because I didn't want you guys to think, well, she says this blood root works, but then she gave it to her father-in-law. That's not the case here. Okay, so back to Mexico. We get to the clinic, and I have an appointment with my doctor. They need to take my blood and start the process with that. And then I have an appointment with my doctor. Now, I told you that my doctor said that chemo might be part of my protocol, and I told you, I was like, oh, no, I'm anti-chemo, that's why I'm here. Okay, so I'm gonna get on the subject of this chemo real quick. The way they administer chemo versus the way they administer it in America is that in Mexico, they give you a shot that drops your insulin completely down. Then they take the chemo and they mix it with glucose. So, what is the first thing that cancer attacks in your body or goes after? What is the first thing that cancer just loves to just live off of? Is sugar. So, when they give you this shot to drop your insulin, and then they mix the chemo radiation, or the chemo with the glucose, they inject you with it. So what happens is the chemo, first thing, goes right after, or the cancer goes right after the chemo, and it attacks it. I'm telling you right now, I sat next to people previously on that had chemo done, and I'm telling you what, I would have never have known that they were getting chemo. There are like 0 side effects. You don't lose your hair. It doesn't attack your immune system. You're not sick. The only side effects that I saw from people getting it is it made them tired. So, back to seeing the doctor. So, the doctor looks over. So, they do my blood work. I go in and see the doctor. They look at my blood work. The doctor's like, how is it that you are this healthy? And I'm like, I gave him my whole regimen of what I've been doing and how I eat. I have low cholesterol. I have low triglycerides. All of my organs function at amazing capacity. My blood work came out impeccable. He even asked me, he's all, are you a vegetarian? And I'm like, no, I am far from a vegetarian. He's all, you have the blood work as somebody that would be a vegetarian. I give credit to all of that, of the things that God has put in my path. And because I was so proactive before I went to Mexico, the doctors all, we're pulling the chemo out of your protocol. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so him and I talked about the chemo, and I was like, why is it that you guys administer it like this, but America doesn't? It's because it's a money-making business. They need you sick so that they can make more money off the stuff that doesn't make, or to help with the sickness. It's this never-ending vicious cycle. And so the doctor and I sat there talking about the different things that they do in America versus the way they do things in Mexico. And the doctors and I also talked about, he's all, we're not allowed to go into America to talk about our treatments or anything. They can go into Canada, they can go into other countries, but they can't come into America. And that saddens me because they have such an amazing treatment plan to help people and to help cure people. And so I sat there in awe with this doctor, the craziness that goes on. And I told you about the way they do it there. They build your immune system up. They're constantly giving you vitamins. They're constantly doing everything they can to keep your body healthy for those that are getting the chemo injections. And so it was a complete opposite of anything in America. So they set me up on my treatment plans. I have, vitamin packs, I have glutathione, I have DMSO, I have chelation, I have sodium bicarbonate, I have B17, which is Laetrile, which is illegal in the United States. The FDA and the pharmaceuticals have banned it from our doctors using it to help with cancer because it is a huge, huge cancer fighter. And for those of you that don't know what B17 is and what Laetrile is, it comes from the apricot seeds. And I told you I was taking apricot seeds prior to going down there. So they have me on this huge regimen of stuff. So then they start me on all of that. So then they put me on a Hoxsey plan. And I'm going to explain to you what Hoxsey is, okay? There was a doctor in the United States, and you guys need to Google this. There was a doctor in the United States that wanted to help people beat cancer, not put it in remission, but beat it. He got tired of seeing people suffer. So this doctor, and I don't remember the date exactly, so I apologize, but you guys can research this yourself. So this doctor invents this Hoxsey. And so it was helping people. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you, he had the men in black knocking on his door, threatening him. They told him to either shut his business down and get out of the country, or they were literally going to throw him in prison. And so this doctor's like, you've got to be kidding me. This was a constant battle he dealt with continuously, having to deal with our pharmaceutical, having to deal with our FDA. And so this gentleman knew that he didn't have much more time to be a doctor. So his successor, a nurse, came into Mexico, and she is the one that opened the biomedical facility. Now these doctors in Mexico have learned the trade of Hoxsey from this woman who had the biomedical. And I told you in previous videos that I had heard about, I had researched about, but I had confirmation that that's not where I was supposed to go because they weren't as thorough. So all of this stuff, now mind you, Hoxsey legally is not allowed in the United States. Why? Because it helps with cancer. Because it's a huge fight are a huge thing that helps fight against cancer. So here's all of this stuff now that I'm on, that I started in Mexico, that's completely everything that America, doctors, the FDA, pharmaceutical is against. So I'm going to stop right there with this video. So tomorrow, or when I go to my next video, I'm headed to a football game right now that's 4.5 hours away in Graybull, Wyoming for my boys. And so I'm going to end right there with this. Sorry if this one was kind of skip around and stuff, but I had to get to the point of getting to where I was starting my treatments, getting to Mexico. And so I have so much more to tell you guys, and so much more of my journey to share with you guys. And so you guys understand too, I am doing this for you at the cost of nothing. I will be sharing nutrition with you. I will be sharing different things with you. I'm doing that free because I want to help so many of you. I'm very passionate about this. And I am so grateful to God for my trials and tribulations and the suffering that I went through for today, so I can reach out and help so many of you not have to fight such a hard battle and taking a chance that you could die from having chemicals shoved into your body. And I say that with treatments that people are doing. I say that with these crap vitamins and these synthetic patches that people are wearing. I want people to be aware. I pray to God above that my journey will reach thousands of people to help them if they ever get sick or if one of their loved ones gets sick. I want you guys to know I love you guys so much, and I'm grateful that I'm able to do this for you. So I tell you, always pray, never give up hope, never give up faith, never quit, and never, never, never give up.